Welcome to this live stream. Again, I'm going to do a reading of Love, A Guide to Your Venus Sequence. From the Gene Keys Golden Path, this is Book 2 by Richard Rudd. And I have my glasses on today, so you know it's getting serious. Or I'm just blind and I'm finally being honest about that fact. Who knows? Let me have a sip of water and some coffee before I start. And get that coffee going with all the lipstick stains all over it. All right. So I left off last time on Purpose Line Keynotes. Thank you so much for the like. I appreciate that. So line 6 is the visionary / judge. Line 5 is the leader / victim. Line 4 is the nurturer / politician. Line 3 is the adventurer / escape artist. Line 2 is the natural / accuser. And line 1 is the anchor / loner. Now, I'm going to highly suggest that what you do is go to thegenekeys.com so you can get your EQ, SQ, and your IQ. So that way you have your breakdown of which gene keys apply to you and to your path in life. I've done this myself. I've written it down. I also have a copy of it online. And it has been so beneficial into helping me understand this a little bit more and making it a lot less confusing. Line 1, the anchor / loner. The loner, shadow. Repressive tendency, not standing up for yourself. Reactive tendency, forcing your point of view. Main block, you are driven by your need to feel secure. The first line always carries this inward-looking view, and when this emerges at the shadow frequency, it becomes a habit of excluding those closest to us. The first line can be very self-absorbed in this way, so much so that it often draws its emotional life so deeply inward that it can no longer feel anything. Thank you so much for the like. I appreciate that. And hey, at least I can see it now because I have my glasses on. This is the archetype of the loner. At the shadow frequency, the loner is a pattern that may believe itself to be emotionally self-reliant. Other people's emotions can seem bothering and excessive to them. The truth is, however, that the first line that seems emotionally detached is usually driven by a profound need to feel secure, and at the first sign of conflict, they will unconsciously shut down. A repressive expression of this shadow might manifest as a quality of emotional hiding, or a fear of standing up for oneself rooted in a lack of core stability. On the other hand, the first line can also react very forcefully, pushing its view angrily at another in an attempt to make them stand down. The anchor, gift. Inner strength, standing up for yourself in a firm but kind way. Outer strength, listening to the needs of others. Highest potential, your confidence makes others feel secure. When you look at the first line through the lens of its gift, you see a person transformed from the view we saw at the shadow frequency. The purpose of your relationships is to become this person. The repressive tendency becomes your inner strength, which enables you to stand up for yourself while maintaining a kind and compassionate tone. The reactive tendency to bully another person becomes instead an innate ability to listen inwardly to one's own emotions, and therefore to be able to empathize with the emotional needs of others. The archetype of the anchor is to stand in your core stability like an oak tree. You will bend only so far as your boundaries allow, but you will also allow others to find their inner confidence in relationship to your strength and groundedness. Line 2, the natural/accuser. The accuser, shadow. Repressive tendency, burying your head in the sand. Reactive tendency, responding with angry outbursts. Main block, you are unaware of your effect on others. You may recall that the second line purpose is about flow and posture and is linked to the power of the spine. When this energy becomes blocked at the shadow frequency, then the whole body loses its luster and core strength. Perhaps more than any other line, the second line tends to get caught up in the charge of the emotional drama to such an extent that they become almost blinded by emotion. The archetype of the accuser refers to the second line's habit of projecting their emotional pain onto someone else. At the root of their pain is their refusal to take responsibility for their own behavior. This manifests either as a pattern of stubbornness that will not hear another's view, the repressive side, or a tendency towards aggressive and angry outbursts, the reactive side, that serves only to strengthen the distance between those involved. The great challenge for the second line shadow is to remember their natural sense of flow in emotional situations and to allow others the space to share their feelings without being overwhelmed. The natural gift. Inner strength, responding to life spontaneously. Outer strength, being at peace with others. Highest potential. Your easygoing nature allows everyone around you to relax. It is often shocking and perhaps amusing for people to look at their potential emotional gifts once they have seen the shadows in action. Often the higher frequency behavior pattern is exactly the opposite from the shadow. Here we see the archetype of the natural. These are people whose nature is so in tune with the emotional realm that they make all relationships look easy. Instead of blocking their own potential, the second line rises up on the spontaneity of their heart. No matter how powerful the emotions may feel, the second line can find an easy and natural way of expressing them without in any way projecting them onto another. This deep emotional ease makes the second line a natural magnet for people who feel emotionally insecure or stuck. The aura of a healthy second line feels very comfortable to be around, and their fluidity and sense of personal embodiment allows others to unwind, breathe, and settle into their spine. Oh, what does that say? Aw, thank you so much, hon. I appreciate that. Very sweet. Line 3, the adventurer/escape artist. The escape artist, shadow. Repressive tendency, diverting attention away from yourself. Reactive tendency, creating emotional dramas. Main block, you run away from making commitments in life. We have seen already that one of the main themes for the third line is commitment. How to find continuity and commitment in a life that is wired to change. If you compare your life to those around you, you are likely to try and shape your life in a way that feels more secure and stable. And when this outer stability fails, as it likely will, you may end up feeling as though you are the failure. This can be a very painful process for the third line. Emotions are the lifeblood of relationships, and the third line can feel overwhelmed by them at times, particularly if they have deep-seated feelings of unworthiness. This leads to the classic third line archetype of the escape artist. In order to avoid feeling unworthy, the third line develops all kinds of strategies for avoiding conflict. At the repressive level, This is really about diverting attention. This can be done in all kinds of ways, but one of the most common is through humor. The third line is a natural gift of humor, but at the shadow level, this is often used as a diversion. The third line also has gift of adaptability, which the shadow will employ at an emotional level. This can make them very slippery and hard to pin down. Even though the third line shadow will try their utmost to avoid anything that makes them feel uncomfortable, at the reactive level, they end up creating all manner of situations that bring this about. Such a life can be very colorful to watch from the outside, but very painful when you are the one in the driving seat. When the third line reacts emotionally, it tends to run away as fast as it can from the person or place where the pain took place. This can then become a habit of creating dramas and then running away from them. The adventurer, gift, inner strength, laughing at yourself, outer strength, accepting the feelings of others, highest potential, your enthusiasm for life is contagious. When the third line shadow themes are transformed by self-awareness, we see a very different set of gifts emerging. Transformation is always rooted in self-honesty, which brings perspective, and with this comes an ability to laugh at yourself and the way that your dharma unravels. This is the third line as an emotional adventurer. Relationships are such a rich part of the human experience, and once the third line has overcome its fear of commitment, it learns a huge amount about life and people. The ability to laugh at oneself is a manifestation of compassion. Awareness always brings this inner sense of humor because it shows you how human you are. You are fallible, and things do not always go the way you expect them to. As long as you stay committed to your own honesty and to being authentic, then life can be such a great adventure. This ability to enjoy the uncertainty of life brings a deep sense of inner trust alive in you. It is where your enthusiasm springs from. This is why others will begin to trust in you, without always wanting more from you. It is always down to you just staying in the room instead of trying to find a way to escape. I'm going to have some coffee and some water and a little vape break. And I know this is a lot of information to process, but I'm telling you, this information is so helpful. And we're coming up on what my lines are. So I'm line 4/6, which means that I am an opportunist and a role model. Don't get hung up too much on the language of human design and the gene keys. It's not at all intended to be negative. As you learn more and listen more about human design and the gene keys, you'll get a better perspective on how this can help you find your pathway in life. And right now, this book is focused in on relationships and love in general, love in your life in all the facets. All right, line 4, the politician/nurturer. The politician, shadow. Repressive tendency, being emotionally numb. Reactive tendency, cutting others off in a cruel way. Unfortunately, this is true. Main block, you reject others before they can reject you. Unfortunately, yes, this can be very true for me. The shadow of the fourth line is the politician. The fourth line has the ability to use its considerable social gifts to conceal its own inner fear and or hurt. The third and fourth lines are the most obviously emotional of all the 6 lines. However, at the shadow frequency, they both represent patterns that might seem the least emotional because they both use different means to try and avoid conflict and pain. The third line may run, but the fourth line represents that they are fine. During challenging emotional exchanges, they may experience their heart closing off and their whole being turning emotionally numb. This numbness allows their mind to take control and manage the situation at the expense of the emotions. It is important to remember that none of these shadow patterns are anyone's fault. They are not deliberate. They are the unconscious genetic coping mechanisms we learned as children. So when the fourth line heart becomes numb, it isn't because they want it to. No one wants to have a closed heart. However, this does mean that the fourth line can appear very cold when they speak from this numb place inside. The nurturer, gift. Inner strength, being gentle with yourself. Outer strength, connecting deeply with others. Highest potential, your generous spirit enables others to accept themselves. I hope so. Out of every one of these shadow patterns comes a gift. In the case of the fourth line, it is the ability to parent yourself with gentleness and patience. Because the fourth line has a tendency to feel emotionally numb when put in a vulnerable position, they can also learn how to bring themselves out of this state. They do this through first of all accepting that they have shut off through no deliberate fault of their own. They then can either ask for gentle support, or if the other isn't able to give that, they can withdraw and give it to themselves. Out of this awareness of how to reopen your own heart come the many great gifts of the fourth line. The ability to teach others how to do the same, for example, or the ability to be openly vulnerable and to communicate authentically when experiencing emotional pain. All of these gifts lend the fourth line a quality of softness combined with great inner strength, which makes them the great nurturers of others. Line 5. The victim/leader. The victim, shadow. Repressive tendency, being lost in self-pity. Reactive tendency, making others feel like the victim. Main block, you create a web of illusions that keeps you trapped in your mind. The fifth line represents the victim. In effect, all shadow states of consciousness are indicative of a victim mentality, but the fifth line captures the essence of this role. We may recall that the fifth line purpose has to do with the voice, which is why this is also the archetype of the leader. The repressive tendency of this line often manifests as a complaining tone. The fifth line gets stuck feeling sorry for itself and can unconsciously create a whole reality around why they are worthy of your pity. This is a negative means of trying to get attention and love. On the other hand, the reactive tendency, fueled by anger, uses the voice to belittle others and make them feel small. This pattern will see others as the victim and take advantage of their weaker position or less confident character. Both of these patterns come from an inner attitude that is usually built up over time. The leader, gift. Inner strength, seeing things clearly for yourself. Outer strength, using your clarity to help others. Highest potential, your practical mind makes you a strong and natural leader. The fifth line has to break through some deep-seated inner barriers in order to unlock its highest potential in life. At the shadow frequency, it can be trapped by its own unconscious attitude, based on individual survival. When this attitude is dismantled through deep self-awareness, the fifth line emerges triumphantly with all the qualities necessary to be a true leader. The first of these is the inner strength to see clearly into one's own being. This is the very insight that lifts the fifth line out of the victim mentality. It also allows the fifth line to help others pull themselves out of the same difficulty. The shadow frequency lies across our planet like a great blanket. When the fifth line awakens, the first thing it wants to do is free others from being codependent victims and help them to be authentic, emotionally independent adults. The magnetic power of the voice of an awakened fifth line can draw many people in for help, and the practical mind of the fifth line can furthermore deliver potent solutions. This is the fifth line operating at its best. All right, this is my other line, line 6, the judge/visionary. The judge, shadow. Repressive tendency, being uninterested and aloof. Reactive tendency, disempowering others through the intellect. Main block, you exclude yourself through your judgment of everything and everyone. The sixth line carries a sense of detachment that sets it apart from all the other lines. This can be its strength and its downfall. At the shadow frequency, the sixth line never manages to come down from its objective perspective, but remains aloof and distant. This is a classic sixth line coping mechanism, ensuring that all emotional exchanges are funneled through the mind. This can give sixth line people an air of aloofness or arrogance, and can make others think they are out of touch with their feelings. The reactive tendency here is all about using one's intellect to disempower others, although this is often not done deliberately. The sixth line shadow can feel completely unemotional at times, and has an ability to analyze other people's emotions without being emotionally engaged themselves. This can lead to a sense of deep isolation in the sixth line. The visionary, gift. Inner strength, including yourself at every level of life. Outer strength, being a role model for others. Highest potential, your trust in life helps others to trust themselves. One of the key words of the sixth line gift is trust. They have to learn to trust in other people and to trust in their own process. Let me just make sure that my mic is still on. Perfect. Okay. Which can include trusting in their own lack of feeling. As one's awareness comes more deeply into the body, the sixth line begins to realize that the mind rarely has the answer they think it does. And this is so true. The sixth line gift emerges with patience. As a sixth line, you have to measure things over time. It takes time for your emotions to surface, so you have to let other people know that you often don't know how you feel yet. When you do give yourself time, then you find a whole new part of your being coming alive. Your feelings provide such a depth of insight that you let go of your habit of going straight into your mind, and you learn to include yourself in relational processes instead of watching them from the outside. At this advanced stage, your mind works in harmony with your feelings, and this is where your gift of vision comes from. It emerges out of the intent of your cells from deep inside your body. The sixth line has an amazing sensitivity to the unfolding rhythms of life, so it always brings with it a sense of deep trust in the timing of events. This attunement to the deep wisdom of the body in turn makes the sixth line a natural person to go to for advice about anything in life. Contemplating your purpose in relationships. Fix my glasses real quick. You may now begin to have an inkling of the difference between working with your activation sequence and diving into your Venus sequence. Your Venus sequence provides you with an enormous depth of insight to contemplate. It's important again to be patient with this knowledge. Sometimes you may read a line that does not seem to belong to you, but it resonates very deeply nonetheless. As you go on deeper into the Venus stream, you may find that line occurring at a deeper level. Understanding your Venus sequence is rather like cracking the code of a safe. There are various combinations and sequences that you have to move through before the door swings open. It is also worth mentioning that each of the lines offers up its wisdom to you regardless of your profile. The further you go into this knowledge, the less you will tend to worry about your external profile. Sometimes wisdom is mysterious and finds its way to you in an indirect and surprising fashion. Once again, I would remind you of the importance of slowing down inside yourself in order for your contemplation to digest, sift, and filter your personal truth from this material. The uniqueness of the Golden Path is that it is such an interior voyage of transformation. There is a paradox here, because although we are now traveling through the emotional landscape of our relationships, we are also treading a very private path. Only your awareness can do this work. Your relationships simply provide you with a useful mirror. Even though you may wish to share your insights with your partner or those closest to you, the Venus stream urges you inwards rather than outwards. It keeps calling you back to be a witness of your own internal world. It is very easy for us to be drawn back into the drama of our emotional lives. The truth is that most communication in relationships takes place without words. We exchange chemical signals through the invisible electromagnetic currents and impulses of the aura. Our thoughts, intent, and feelings are always conveyed through time and space before we are usually even consciously aware of them. In most relationships, we put a lot of time and effort into trying to communicate our inner state of unfulfillment. But that unfulfillment is our own deep issue, and it is difficult to find one's way out of such a state through heated conversation. The intensity of emotions can be a beautiful phenomenon. Even uncomfortable feelings can be appreciated at a certain level. This is certainly one of the goals of the Venus sequence, to break us out of the habit of being completely hooked by the surface dramas of our lives. If we learn not to take the bait in the first place, then we find there is a deeper calm to be found within. Out of this calm, a more candid and lucid form of communication is possible. A dialogue out of one's depths is a rare and precious thing. It takes a person with great self-love and inner patience to access this deeper sphere beneath the daily drama. The sphere of attraction. In the sphere of attraction, we come into a place where chemistry governs all. In your hologenetic profile, this gene key is calculated by a specific position of the moon while you are still in your mother's womb. It is in many ways a portal to another world, the so-called astral plane. The astral plane is an esoteric term that refers to the world where emotional currents have a living reality of their own. Here, desires are born. This is the font of our sexuality, which is why it is about attraction. It is about the electromagnetic resonance of our Dharma, drawing in the etheric ingredients that will eventually manifest our destiny. The sphere of attraction sits like a fulcrum between the pathways of Dharma and Karma. That which is encoded in our DNA as purpose rings out into the subtle planes and calls in those relationships that offer us the greatest possibility of fulfilling our higher purpose. How we listen and learn from those relationships is up to us. Relationship chemistry is one of the greatest unknown mysteries of our age. We are ruled by the chemistry of our relationships while at the same time having little understanding of their underlying forces. The chemistry between any two human beings creates a dynamic interactive energy field. When we are able to listen inwardly to what our relationships are telling us in silence, we may discover an incredible universe that we never realized existed. There are miracles waiting in the spaces between us, if we only knew how to harvest them. When you enter the Venus stream, you are invited into a very deep contemplation of your primary relationships. By this we mean your children, parents, spouses, lovers, anyone who lives and shares their life with you. You are invited to explore these relationships at a deeper level than you have ever considered possible. This is not necessarily about a change in your external dialogue, although that may also change, but it is about a change in your emotional dialogue, the way your body, mind, and emotions respond internally to others. The Venus stream asks you to listen carefully to your chemical responses without any judgment. We are not looking for answers when we do this. This is not about analysis. We are simply receiving the other person's aura at the level at which it is meant to be taken in. We can even begin this work when the other person is absent, although their physical presence is necessary to fully learn from the relationship. Oh, that's wonderful, Del. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I appreciate that. You should pay particular attention to those relationships which you find challenging or uncomfortable. The aura of such relationships usually contains a deeper vein of chemical information that is often rarely accessed due to the eruption of drama on the surface. When your awareness is able to dig deeper into such relationships, you often find that they contain the greatest diamonds, since they offer you the opportunity for inner transformation. It's often in the deep shadows that the miracles lie hidden. The attractor field. In recent years, there has been much talk in esoteric circles about harnessing the attractor field that surrounds humans. Much of this information is geared towards the manifestation of one's wishes on the material plane. The Venus sequence does not offer any such techniques for manifestation. It is unlikely that we humans really know what is good for us in the first place. What you do learn from this wisdom is that in life you will always get exactly what you need when you need it. The secret is not about asking for something in the future. It is about mining the full depth and splendor of what you already have in the present. What is it that you wish for? More money? A perfect relationship? The ideal home? It's important to look at your present circumstances and see how much there is to be grateful for. What is this something in the future that you seek? Such longings, whatever form they take, are very human and very understandable. You do not have to stop yourself from wishing for a happier life. But perhaps through yielding to the Venus stream, you will see that happiness isn't really the grail that you are seeking. Your attractor field emerges out of the needs of your Dharma, your destiny. Although it may be possible to tinker with your attractor field, the things you think you want will most probably not lead to fulfillment. Our attractor field ripples out into the cosmos. It emerges through our deep desires. As you learn to see inwardly into your own astral body, you will discover layer upon layer of desires. When we get down to the bottom, we all find the same thing: the longing to express our true nature as unconditional love. Few are the humans who commit themselves fully to this path. Desires can be so wonderfully distracting. The Venus stream invites you to explore the layers of wounding that cause us to break off from following this path by allowing ourselves to be distracted by the outer drama of our lives. And I'm going to go ahead and stop right there, and we'll pick back up on the sexual wound, which is very interesting information in my opinion. Now, what I love about the gene keys, let me not mess this up. I have to have this in a certain order or I forget. What I love about the gene keys in human design is that you can really gain so much knowledge from it. It's a deeply personal experience, and it's different for everyone. I highly encourage you Thank you so much for sharing that, Del. I really appreciate those comments. Those are so wonderful and very much in tune and in depth with the gene keys and human design. I highly encourage you to get your body graph. You can go to ahumandesign.com. That's where I went. I also went ahead and got the deep dive of my profile of my body graph. And then at the Gene Keys for free, you can get your EQ, IQ, and your SQ, which relates to the genius, love, and prosperity books in the Golden Path. Now, these were all written by Richard Rudd. He is an incredible philosopher, an incredible person that has really allowed human design and the gene keys to be more easily understood. And that's the whole point of these live streams, is if you're not sure if you want to purchase these books or check them out, or if you're not sure about the gene keys or about human design, I want to introduce them to you because they are such a big component of what I coach. They're a big component of what I personally believe and what I see as a path to being the best and most authentic version of ourselves. And these can really help you on your path to being the most authentic version of yourself as well. On my next live stream, which I'm about to do right now, it's going to be a reading of the 64 ways. I am so hopeful that you will join me on that as we're going to get into the third gene key. And I greatly appreciate the time that you've spent with me today on this live stream. And I really hope that you found this information to be as helpful as I do. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and or join for more content like this. And to see all the content that's popping off at the different tiers that I do have available. I currently have 4 tiers available. Thank you again, and I will see you next time. Be well, stay wild as well. And real quick, let me see what this says. It says, yes, I can feel an interconnectedness. I study sacred Tibetan texts at the Dalai Lama's house. He lives near me, so glad I found your reading. I'm exploring the connection of mind and imagination. That is amazing, and I am so happy for you. So again, thank you so much for joining me. I will be doing another live stream in just a few moments. in just a few moments on the 64 ways. I'll see you soon.